Hello. It's such a pleasure for me to be here and to say a few things. So my name is Juliet Odhiambo. I am the lead coach and the founder of Pesa Savvy. I am a big believer in not stopping at the knowledge, because we live in a knowledge, information world right now. Like, there's lots of information everywhere, especially when it comes to finances, when it comes to money. Somebody earlier said MMFs are all the rage right now. If I hear somebody say MMF one more time, I might scream. But if what you know is actually not translating into a functioning difference in your financial health, then there is a problem. And that's why coaching makes a difference. So because I'm a coach, I deal with individuals, and I look at finance from a very individualistic place. Personal finance is the reason it's called personal finance. Like, it's you and your value system and your and the life that you have envisioned for yourself, and then now how money works as a tool to help you create that life that you have envisioned. So I want to start with a story of a client that I worked with. Being based in Kenya, majority of my clients are in Kenya, but about 10% of my clients are actually Kenyans in diaspora. So this lady was in her mid-50s, and she's based in France. She works for the UN, earns really well, and she's already thinking about coming back home. And one of the projects she put in place to come back home was a flat that she was trying to build in Kitengela. So this was her retirement plan, that she's going to come back. By the time she's coming back, the flat will be finished. She'll get tenants, life goes on. So in the process of us engaging, I learned about how much money she has been sending back home. Because, of course, she's in France. In order for her to build in Kitengela, she needs somebody on the ground. This somebody turned out to be a cousin or an aunt, I can't remember, but somebody in her family. And she said her biggest frustration is that every single minute she's getting calls. Oh, unajua cement imeisha. Oh, the kanjo came today. Oh, like, she's always sending money home. And she comes from that generation of people who believe when you say the word investment, it means that you have property or you're running a business. Those are only two options. So when we started discussing about opportunities in the financial markets, and now we did a comparison of how much money she had sent home to build this building, and what the psychological and emotional cost as well. Because I think when people think about building, it's always coming from a financial space in terms of, it will be cheaper, if I build the thing myself. But if you don't have the both psychological, emotional capacity for it, I think the cost goes up. And that's kind of where she was. And so we looked at, okay, this is what it would look like to put money in government securities. This is what it would look like to put money in the money market and, whatnot. And the difference was stark, The difference was so huge, and for her, for sure, it was a knowledge gap. Because it was not that she did not have the money to put, right? It was that the money was directed in the only option that she thought that she had. And so, as I stand here, I want to see what I can do with, 7 more minutes that I have left to talk about all the investment opportunities that you have, which I might not do justice for when talking about investing back home, but I want to try. When I talk about, so actually it was building wealth, right? That was the the topic, building wealth back home. When we talk about wealth, I love to talk about the ladder of financial planning. So when somebody comes to me and says, Juliet, I need help with my money and I need help with my finances, and they don't have a job, or they don't have any income coming in, this is not the person that I'm going to start telling, oh, you need to buy shares, you need to buy government securities, because that's not where they are. They're at the bottom of the ladder. They are like, literally, that's what I would call financially insecure, because they can't pay rent, they can't eat, and all those things. The priority for such a person is to first make the income, right? Once you have some income coming in, and it's coming in regularly, now the worst thing that could happen to you is to lose that income. If you lose that income, that means you go back to the bottom of the ladder. At the bottom of the ladder, again, you can't eat, you can't pay rent, you can't cater for the basics. So what should become your priority is to protect that income. How do you protect that income? Build something that I'm sure we've all heard about, the emergency fund. So if this emergency fund, there are many emergencies, but the core emergency is loss of income. In the event of that income that facilitates your lifestyle, if it goes missing, then you have some savings that can sustain you for a certain period of time until you get another income. Those guys who survived and thrived during COVID had very good emergency funds. Now, the worst, God forbid the worst happens, that you actually do have income, you lose that job, now you start living on your emergency fund. Let's say it was 6 months. So through 6 months, you're looking for another income while you're living on these savings, and then 6 months run out, and you still don't have any income coming in. What happens? You go back to the bottom of the ladder, right? So once you have that emergency fund, what you need is emergency fund on steroids. One that just doesn't run out, and that's why we invest, right? That's why we invest. We want to be able to support your lifestyle with money that doesn't run out. So that means when you're investing, you have to invest with a plan, with a purpose, with a number. And that is what we call the financial independence number. That number is the level of investing where your daily living expenses can be covered by income that comes from those investments. So those investments are what I'll just talk about shortly. Now, there are many things you could potentially invest in. Let's say you need 1.2 M a year to survive in this hour Nairobi. In today's time, you would need at least 12 M invested to be able to live on that income from your investments. I'm assuming a 10% average return. Now, if you get to that level, that means you've gotten to the level of financial independence. Now, anything you do over and above financial independence is now wealth creation. I was talking about the ladder just so that I can explain where wealth comes in, right? So wealth creation now covers everything above and beyond what you need. And so you can start thinking about, philanthropy projects, your children's children, beyond your day-to-day. So why do I talk about this? Is because many of us are always attempting to move, let me not say always, but some people want to build the wealth without the income, right? Like you've skipped some steps. You already think about wealth creation, but you have no money coming in. Or you have money coming in, but you don't have an emergency fund. So if you start investing, that means that if anything happens and you don't have the emergency fund, you will break the investment in order to cover the emergency. What that does is that it doesn't give your investments time to actually bring the return that it's supposed to bring. All right? So I need you to have that at the back of what I'm about to say, which is now, okay, so where do I invest? So money markets are not bad, guys. They're great. It's a good place to start. But money markets has brothers and sisters that oftentimes don't get the same kind of, what do I call it? Somebody is doing some really good PR for MMFs, yeah? That the other brothers and sisters are not getting. So if you're starting there with the funds, let me say with the funds, so you can still, whoever is offering you the money market fund probably also has something called a fixed income fund. In my experience, the fixed income fund normally has better returns than the money market fund. in most of the providers that I've seen. So that's an alternative fund. You can also check. The other funds are maybe the equity fund, which invests in the stock market, and the balance fund. But you might not have to do everything. I'm just saying go beyond the money market fund. There are other funds, or even specialized funds. You know, when you look at companies like Mansa X, has a special fund that I would not put in the same category as other unit trusts, right? Faida Investment just launched another fund, a special fund as well. So that makes them this. When I say special fund, there's some slight variation in how they run and operate, and they are broader in terms of where they invest. So that's a good place to start. Alternatively, you can also look into the government securities. This past year, the Treasury bonds gave a high of 18%. Infrastructure bond had an 18% return. And so it got a lot of traction from a lot of people most of the year, really. But I think the rates are going down. But the government securities would ideally be safe. Considered, actually, money markets and government securities generally are considered your safest bet as far as investments go. So they are a good place for you to start putting your money. The government securities used to be a very manual process to participate in, but things have changed right now. They've digitized the CSD DO platform. You can operate and run from anywhere. You just need to open your account and have a local bank, and it should be pretty straightforward for you to invest in the government securities. So that has increased the options that you have, and a big part and a big motivation for the government doing that was actually to allow more of the diaspora to invest back home. Alternatively, you can also go to the stock market. Now, our stock market is something to talk about. How do I talk about the stock market? There are a segment of the stock market that is really bringing great returns. One of the things I teach about is investing for financial independence. So that means that whatever you invest in needs to be passive. So when I talk about the stock market, I'm not talking about trading. Not that trading is bad, but we are talking about long-term trading, investing for passive income. So you want easy money. So invest in companies that have a track record of profitability and dividend payment. So the more shares you have, the more dividends you're going to get. So there are good companies. I can actually say that there are at least 10 of the listed companies can give you good returns. I could run a whole workshop on investing in the stock market, right? So we are not going to go into that. Or finally, I'm going to talk about investing in real estate. So I would probably advise, I think we have a representative from Savo, yes? Yeah, have a conversation with Savo and see what it looks like. I think, in my opinion, and this is an opinion, Savo have made it really easy for people abroad to actually invest in real estate in the country. And I think the biggest challenge is, going back to the story that I gave earlier of my client who was trying to build a home, is that there's no one, you have a difficulty finding someone you can trust who can run such an investment on your behalf. And I think Savo really does a good job to serve their clients abroad. Now, some of the things that you might want to think about when you are investing from abroad, you feel blind. You can't feel blind, right? Like you don't know what's happening and you might not know where to put your money locally. The first thing, at least if you're looking at the financial markets, only deal with people who have the Capital Markets Authority license. That means they're being regulated and they have a license to do what they're telling you they can do. So that's one layer of protection. So any person, whether it's a fund manager, a stockbroker, they should have a license and you can ask for the license. That's a first level of protection if you're looking at in the financial markets and if you're looking at funds. If you're looking at the government securities, to be honest, it only takes for you to to open the CSD account. It's very easy, very user-friendly. And if you opt not to, you can find an agent who can be a bank, a local bank. I recommend StanChart as one of the banks that can link you to investing in the government securities. Again, just because they've made that process very easy. And then if you're looking again into real estate, you want to make sure that you do some due diligence, especially if you go the off-plan route. Do some due diligence on the developer and ask several questions of the developer. Do company searches on the developer. eCitizen, by the way, is a great platform. It can help with that process. So you make sure you can get who the owner of this company is, do a search on the name of the owners of the company, because sometimes they've hidden themselves in layers of ownership. And so if you don't do good research, you might not be able to see that. Do a land search on the property that is being built, where the construction is happening. Make sure the actual people building own that property. And even if you're abroad, try and do at least a couple of visits as the construction is going on, so that you ensure that wherever the money is going, there's actual construction to match the investments that you're making. There's many more things that I could actually say, but because of time limitations, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to also hopefully answer some of your questions later on. But I want to encourage us that, I don't have the stats. I was meant to check the stats before I got here in terms of the remittances that Kenyans in diaspora are sending back home. But as somebody mentioned there, most of that remittance is in black tax. It would be great if those remittances were actually towards investment opportunities in the country, because then that helps our economy to grow as a whole. Thank you so much.